Hello and welcome back to the Ski Racing Podcast Extra with that guy sitting over there, Mr. Tord Nilsson, and this guy over here, Ed Drake, as we will talk you through the slalom discipline at the Winter Olympic Games. It is the final event for the men, and it's towards the start of the program for the ladies, and it's going to be a cracker. This is probably the one that's going to be most up in the air. I think it's going to be probably the hardest to try and whittle down to who we think is going to win, certainly on the men's side. Tord, what do you think about the Olympic slalom?
I mean, it is so exciting because this is the 100 meters of the Winter Olympics, isn't it? It's, two runs. I like to think
of it as the 200 meters because I think that the downhill's blue ribbon.
Well, that's because you're a speed skier, though, isn't it? But let's be honest.
All right.
We all get bored after a while in the downhill. No, I mean, it's super exciting. It's such a great ending. As we've kind of said in previous videos, the downhill is where it starts for the Olympics and for the men, and the slalom is where it finishes. And it is a bit like the 100 meters or that kind of where you go into the Super Saturdays of the Summer Olympics. Really excited. And it's all happening on the 16th of February. First of all, let's talk about the course, right? So they obviously have two runs like normal. How does it work with the course setting? Who gets to do that? Can you explain a little bit for our audience, like what the deal is?
So the coaches, so you have to have an athlete in the top 15. So any of the nations that have an athlete within the top 15, you're drawn out of a hat basically to be able to set. So for Great Britain, as an example, we have Dave Riding sitting in the top 15. So Tristan Glass-Davies, his coach, goes into a hat to be able to be drawn out to set the first run. And then they do a separate draw for the second run. Obviously that nation is then taken out of the second run. So if your Norwegian sets the first, a Norwegian can't set the second, obviously.
That makes sense.
So that gets taken out. So so you've got a decent shot at setting, a half decent shot at setting, because if you look at like the slalom standings, there's probably, I think off the top of my head, without sitting here counting it, there's probably like 6 nations that are, if that, 5 nations that have got athletes in the top 15. So you've got a decent shot at getting a course set. Very
cool. And in terms of the actual like mountain and the run, how does it look? It's obviously artificial snow. It's currently very cold. I assume that coldness will just stay. What else do you know about the slalom part of the mountain?
Not an awful lot. As we again still had no test event, so it's been sort of shrouded in secrecy due to COVID more than anything else. The hill, by the looks of it, looks pretty steep. It looks like it's got a couple of rolls in the middle there. It looks like a classic slalom track. It's going to have a bit of everything in there because they have designed this hill / resort specifically for the Olympic Games. So they will have made sure they picked a good part of the forest that they would have create this slalom track on. So it's going to be epic. It's going to have everything at it, and the snow conditions mean that it should hold up really nicely. There may be a bit of a groove in there, but nothing too major, sort of Schladming-esque, where you'll get a couple of groovy outside ski turns on the flatter parts. On the steep you'll get some judders, but all in all the surface will be, in theory, immaculate because it's going to stay cold,
which is exactly what we want. We want it to be as even as possible across all the skiers, to give everyone a shot. Let's talk about who could take this home. Now, this is...
How long we got?
Well, not long. So should we just say Dave Riding now and then go for a coffee? No, I mean, to be honest, on my list, there's 3 Norwegians, for example, that have all got a good chance. Dave Riding is an outsider. It's kind of a wild card, I'd say. Still, I know that he obviously won in Kitzbühel, but you've got to look at it. We've got to put a bit of context to it, I think. Yeah. You got people like Clement Noel, Fella. I mean, Fella came back from COVID and came third at Schladming, even though he looked literally like he was dying on that.
I know, he looked so bad, didn't he? Just glassy and sweaty. Just looked like
he looked like he just wanted to get home or get into that taxi. But what do you think? What other names have I potentially missed? Who do you think this will suit the best?
I mean, you said some of the main players there, obviously. I mean, Linus Strasser, he skied really well again in Schladming. That looked great. Clement Noel, who I'd say is arguably the fastest on the slalom tour, but can't buy a finish at the moment. Finazza obviously has got the skill set to be able to do it. Dave Riding, obviously, that you've already said. Henrik Kristoffersen, Giuliano Razzoli, Strolz, Jacobsen. I mean, honestly, the list goes on and on and on. But I don't know. It's going to be so difficult. I mean, honestly, you may as well just shut your eyes and pick a nose out of a hat who's going to win it.
I mean, to try and narrow down a little bit of our thoughts behind it, and behind who we might think is going to win. You know, we've got this artificial snow, so you can put more mistakes into the natural snow. Would someone like Fella, who is aggressive, he's a bit wild, he's a bit out there, would he do really well compared to somebody who's a little bit tidier?
He's not that wild anymore, though. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why he's done so well is that he's sort of, he's gone a bit, I mean, Jacobsen is probably your wild character now, him or Finazza. Are those guys. So are they going to be, they are on this snow surface, undeniably, you are going to get some speed off the snow surface. These guys are going to be going quickly, and it's going to be about trying to minimize the mistakes. And so Jacobsen, off his raw pace at the moment, he's right up there. And he's probably, if you were to do 10 runs, he'd maybe finish 4 of them, but of those 4, he'd be the quickest.
But can he deal with
Clement Noel? Can he? But I don't know. Like he didn't handle the pressure of leading.
No, exactly.
Well,
exactly.
And Vanazza didn't handle the pressure of leading in Kitzbühel very well. And you imagine what it's going to be like to be at the Olympic Games. So. I just don't.
And the reason I actually mentioned Fella was that I thought his second run, there was a little bit of that wild side that came out. It was almost
he was certainly more loose,
he was so desperate to go home because he felt like crap that I think he just went, I'm just going to ski this as aggressively. Maybe I'll ski out and we can go home.
Yeah, just get the hell out of there. Then,
and then you have to sit on the winner's seat for ages.
I just don't. I honestly don't know. I think we could see anything. I mean, Lucas Broughton's been really consistent and he dominated a single run. We've also seen Fella dominate a run. We've seen Vinazza dominate a run. Jacobsen's dominated a run. Clement Noel has smashed the field in Val d'Isère right at the beginning of the season. Dave Riding's dominated a run. Henrik Kristoffersen dominated a run. Razzoli's do you know what I mean? I think it's not a case of a couple of guys with the skill set and the speed this season. You know, I'm not even having to look back at last season or the season before. You're looking at this season where all of those people have won runs, whether it's been a first run or a second run. Do you know what? I just honestly think it's going to be the most incredible race. But I think we could easily see, I don't know, the top 10 separated by 0.4 of a second. Easy.
Which would be amazing to see, and amazing for the neutral, for the fan, for everyone, right? You're obviously good friends with the Team GB crew, Riding's team. Have you got any kind of insider info that they've kind of said about their preparation, how they're feeling for it? Obviously confidence must be high, right?
Yeah, I mean, they've gone super early. If you look at the Austrians are still back in Europe at the moment, but Dave's flying over, I think, tomorrow morning. I think so. He's going over there really early because he wants to get over jet lag, acclimatise and all that sort of stuff. And he's a bit of an old boy now, so he needs to, his comfort, make sure he's okay. Somebody to give him a hug and hot chocolate so he can go to bed early. And so for them, I think it's just that. And they've just got to try and, pressure for Dave at the Olympics has been next level for the last 2. Well, certainly the last one, if not the last 2 Olympics, it's been big pressure on him. But that is only going to have doubled off the back of Kitzbühel. So I think in reality, he knows what it's like to carry the weight of the Alpine British skiing nation for a few years. But I kind of feel like this is, bigger than ever now, thanks to that victory.
For sure.
I think he's going to be relaxed. I think he's going to be relatively relaxed because he's got a monkey off his back by winning a World Cup. So,
And also he does. I mean, we had, and not to go too Team GB centric, because we have obviously a global audience, but for the Team GB generally, that we've had great successes in the other disciplines as well that are going out there. Charlotte Banks in snowboard, for example. A lot of the freestyle guys are doing very well globally as well. So there does become that shared confidence as well, yes. Right? Which I'm sure they will all thrive off.
Yeah, because I think if you look at Team GB, where is Team GB's best chance at an Olympic medal or a gold medal? Charlotte Banks is definitely she's the person that it's almost in the border cross, it's hers to lose. A little bit like Odermatt and GS, how it's his race to lose. That is her event to lose, and I think that is different. That is different, sort of kettle of fish in terms of pressure. But Dave, I think thankfully, if you go back to 2010 or 2006, where we were wondering if we were going to be able to pick up one medal, I don't think that is a wonder anymore. I mean, it's a possibility, like any nation. Wrong thing on the wrong day, and you walk away with nothing. But I think we've got medal opportunities coming from lots of different events, and so I feel like that may slightly take it's certainly not. If it was only the Alpine that we had a shot in the medals, then obviously the pressure would be ramped up. So therefore, by the case that we've got more events to pick from for medals, potential medals, means that pressure is slightly less on Dave, but he's still going to be feeling it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from my old mate Pat Sharples, who is the performance director for Team GB on all snow, he told me they want 4 to 5 medals across snow. So fingers crossed. Dave,
45 medals.
45 medals, yeah, which is phenomenal. Anyway,
you're gonna ask me for a pick now, aren't you?
You read my mind, my good friend. Ed, I do need to have a pick off you, mate. The world needs to hear your view.
No, don't want to give you one.
Disclaimer: do not follow Ed's bets and put any money on them.
Do you know who I think I would love to see win? Just maybe a couple of percent behind Dave. Giuliano Razzoli. If he could win 12 years after he won his Olympic gold in Vancouver, up in Whistler, that's going to be pretty epic. But who do I think is going to do it? Foss-Solevag. I think he might have the right blend between risk, calm head, and ability. But like I say, you may as well be blindfolded and chucking a dart at a darts board.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see Jacobsen take it for Sweden, obviously. I think that would be great. I'm not convinced he has the mental strength to do it, personally. It's really difficult.
Who is it?
I reckon I'm going to put a little one on Kristoffersen, I think.
That was my other one that
he feels like he's tuned into life a bit more. I know I gave him a scathing review in the last video.
I think it's a good shout. I think that's a good shout.
But I do hope Jacobsen, I would be more worried about him actually skiing out, doing really well first run, and then getting that in his head from Kitzbühel, Schladming, and then skiing out.
I think the best place that you could be after the first run is fourth. I think the person who's fourth after the first run of the slalom will win.
That is a huge statement and something we are going to write down and chisel into stone. And
I think
throw at you when it doesn't work.
I'm pretty confident. If I could bet on somebody, if that was an option on the with the betting companies, I would bet whoever's in fourth. I'd do it now. Whoever's in fourth to win.
There you go.
Because that person's walking away with no medals. The other guy, first, second, and third, are trying to protect. He's the first person that's trying to gain.
God, you're not just a pretty face, are you, Ed?
No, mate.
Right. Well, that is the men's slalom, which will happen on the 16th of February. We will be back in a second to cover the women's. And we move on to the women's slalom. Ed, I don't want to call it, but am I right in saying this is going to be a two-woman race.
Yeah, not nicely picked with your words there. I think that it's going to be. In reality, yes. There's only two names that I think anybody would wisely choose at this point. And that's definitely going to be Vlhova or Shiffrin. Could Liensberger do it? Yes. Could Wendy Holdner do it? Yes. Could Lena Dürr do it? Yes. Are they going to do it? No. I mean, yeah, potentially, but no. I think that's the fight for third. And I think, unfortunately, that's probably the reality that most of those are looking for. Maybe Liensberger is trying to win, but I kind of feel like Vlhova and Shiffrin have just been are too good. I think Vlhova, having dominated the slalom World Cup tour as she has, I think she'll be a real force. Shiffrin, like we talked about in Giant Slalom and the rest of her disciplines, actually, she's had a bit more of a fight to bring out her best performances. But Shiffrin on her day can beat anybody, obviously. So she's got a good shot. And like we say, she's been there, done that, got the T-shirt.
Yeah, and I really think this is going to be one of those classic duels, to be honest. Yeah. We've had it in things like Formula One or even back when Hirscher or Kristoffersen kind of duels. I think this is going to be it. I genuinely think everybody else is just making up numbers. It's going to be one of these two. And hopefully... Yeah,
I mean, it does sound harsh, but I think
it's not
true.
Harsh, it's true. And we're here to deliver the truth to the people, Ed.
Give the people what they want.
And I really hope it comes down to like 100th would be incredible. Those two will, they've been at it all season long, so I think it's going to carry on with that. It is on the 9th of Feb, so relatively early on. Potentially one of them has already taken a medal. Who knows? We don't know. But there's definitely the chances of one of those guys coming into this race already having one under the belt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or both.
If your call goes in, you're thinking Shiffrin's going to take the GS win, so she goes from the GS into that, and that's going to be confidence. If one of those two, if either Shiffrin or Vlhova win, then the GS, I think they'll win the slalom, because I think that.
What about if here's a scenario for you. What if Shiffrin wins but Vlhova takes silver, which is still incredible? How do you think that then affects the slalom?
I think Vlhova's going to win the slalom, so I think that she would, in that scenario, I think she would win. I think she'd win.
All right. But so you think Vlhova's gonna win the slalom? Sorry, you just committed to that?
Yeah, I think so. I think she's been so quick all season, and at the same time as being so quick, she's looked so solid as well. It hasn't been like that she's been fast and a bit crazy making mistakes. She's not really made mistakes this year, touch wood. So I kind of feel like she's got the pace and the consistency at the moment, which is obviously the holy grail. And I kind of feel like she's got that in slalom at the moment. So yeah, I don't see her making mistakes. So I think she's going to take it.
Whereas I'm going to go Shiffrin, because that then goes with my giant slalom pick. The worst thing that we could actually have is one of those having an injury coming into this, because then it will, that would be, I mean, it's obviously unfortunate for anyone to have an injury, but
yeah, but thankfully, obviously, it's relatively early on as well, before all the speed events and stuff. So I kind of feel like the thing that you got to worry about is COVID, obviously. I mean, we've seen a couple of races already go down with COVID. Martin Scharte went down with COVID, so he's now not going to the Olympic Games. And so I think that's the thing that most athletes are worried about at this point. Isn't about injuries. It's about making sure that they don't catch the pesky COVID.
Exactly. Okay, cool. Well, that is it for slalom. Please like, share, subscribe in any order that you will. And also the skiracingpodcast.com for everything else. Thanks for watching, and check out all the other previews that we've got for the other disciplines. Anything else to add, Ed?
No, I think you ticked all the boxes there very nicely. Well done.
Beautiful. See you next time.
See you later.